Hello everyone and welcome back to the Felix Smart Studio here in beautiful Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Today we're going to take some time to talk about the different filters that you can get for your aquarium. Here we have a sponge filter, internal filter, hang-on back, canister, and then a sump as well, which obviously we can't show you on this little table. But the first thing we're going to do is talk about sponge filters. Now, sponge filters are really unappreciated. They are great little affordable filters that can easily go into any aquarium, and then with the use of an air pump, help you filter water. Now, the way that they work is that the air pump is connected to the air line, which then forces water to go through the sponge and out the air, out the top, creating air bubbles. So they're really great because they help aerate the water really easily. They're inexpensive, they're easy to clean, and they're shrimp and baby fish safe. So a lot of individuals will actually use these systems for fish breeding projects, or if they have really fancy shrimp and they're trying to build a colony for them, or maybe they just want like an inexpensive solution to help aerate the water while also filtering. In that sense, sponge filters are really great. Because they're so affordable, the real investment comes in getting a good air pump, and you can buy these small USB powered ones, or you can have larger ones which can power multiple sponge filters. So if you do have a large fish room with, you want to breed fish or shrimp, then sponge filters are really great because you can filter an entire room without spending too much money. Now, there are some disadvantages to sponge filters. One of the main ones is that they are noisy. So if you have an air pump, it is going to make some noise. And then obviously as the bubbles break through the water line, that's going to cause some noise as well. Some people like the noise of it, think of it as like white noise, but they can be noisy. Also, some people might think of having an air pump as a disadvantage. Now, it's always good to have one anyways in the case of an emergency, but it does mean that you have to invest into a secondary piece of equipment to get the filter to work. And then the last disadvantage, which not everyone agrees upon, but they are technically not very aesthetically pleasing. So if you're gonna have a nice aquascaped aquarium, you're probably not gonna be using a sponge filter unless you can easily hide it, if that's something that concerns you. So those are sponge filters. Now the next one is an internal filter. Now these primarily will sit up against the glass or at the bottom of the aquarium as well, usually suctioning directly onto the glass. The great thing about these is that they are also quite inexpensive and readily available. You can get them almost through any online retailer or any pet store. They do sit in the aquarium, so that does mean that it is going to use some of the space inside your setup, but that's usually not a big issue if you get a slim enough one. Now, other advantages to this is also that they can use a spray bar, and a lot of them do come pre-equipped with one. And spray bars are really great if you want to get a lot of surface water movement, or if you like the sound of water breaking, spray bars are really great. Spray bars are also really helpful because they can help diffuse the speed of the water coming out of the filter, which depending on the type of fish that you have, if they do like slower moving water, a spray bar can help you in that regard to keep the water movement low when it's coming back out of the filter. Now, the way that they work is they sit inside, the filter forces the water through the bottom, or depending on the layout of it, the bottom of the filter into the chamber and then out the spray bar or the front part of the hose where it's connected. Now, one of the disadvantages of these is that, like I said, it does take up space inside of your aquarium. So if you already have a fairly small setup, an internal filter is just going to use that much more space, which could limit the type of plants or hardscape that you want to use, or maybe it even changes the type of fish that you want to get for that specific aquarium. Also, they have very limited media space. So you'll notice on the bottom, there's usually space just for a simple sponge, maybe a couple of ceramic rings. But other than that, there's not much room in these things for media. The next one is your hang-on back filter. Now, hang-on back filters, there's two different types. And the type that I have here is the one that does not have cartridges. There are some hang-on back filters that they actually have a cartridge that you put inside where the water is forced to pass through. And while they do work, the disadvantage to those is that you have to purchase the cartridges on a regular basis. So I personally prefer the ones that just give you space to kind of create your own media chamber. Now, the way the hang-on back filters work is just as the name implies. It sits on the outside of the aquarium, on the rim of it, forcing water up through this chamber into the media compartment and back out into your aquarium. They're really inexpensive, they're easy to use, they're readily available everywhere, and they cause great water movement. Now, some of the disadvantages to hang-on back filters is that they can be a bit bulky. Also, if you are getting the ones with cartridges, then you're gonna have regular purchases that you need to make. While these ones do use media that you can rebuy, you often don't have to buy them as often as you would a cartridge. Also, a disadvantage, which is similar to the sponge filter, is that they can reduce the aesthetic look of your setup. Now, I personally really enjoy hang-on backs, and I have them even on my fully aquascape setups, but you have to be aware that it is technically a piece of equipment that's just hanging on the outside of it, which you may or may not like. However, they are great filters altogether. Now, the next filter that we have are canister filters. Now, these are large, powerful external filters that generally sit on the outside of your setup, whether inside of a cabinet or on the floor next to the stand that you might be using. Some of the advantages of these are that they are powerful, so they can turn over water at quite a high rate. However, you do want to actually look into calculating how much water they do turn over. Usually they are promoted to do more than what they can actually do. The other great advantage to canister filters is that they have a huge compartment inside for you to customize the filter media. Now, most of them will come already pre-installed with filter media in them, but you can customize it if you want more sponges or filter floss or more ceramics, or you want to strictly stick with sponges, and you can definitely do that with a canister filter, and lots of it as well. Also, the inside of the filter itself, depending on the type that you get, doesn't need maintenance as often, but when it is time to maintain it, you do have to take them apart, and it can be quite a long process. Canister filters are generally fairly quiet, which is great, which means that if you do have an aquarium in your bedroom or anything like that, canister filters are a good option because they can be quiet not only on the equipment itself, but also on the water being pushed back into the aquarium as well. Now, the disadvantages to canister filters, one of the main ones is that they are very expensive for the most part. Obviously some more than others, but you are going to spend considerably more money than you are on any of these other filters. They do also occupy quite a bit of space within your cabinet or your floor space, so you do have to be aware of that. And then the last disadvantage, which is quite rare, but it can happen, is that if any of the hosing does fail that's connected to this, you can have quite a catastrophic issue if all the water in your aquarium is essentially sucked out. So you do have to keep that in mind, and there are ways to prevent that, but of course it is something you do have to be aware of. Now, if an internal filter fails, it's not going to leak the water out of your aquarium like a canister filter might if it's not installed in a certain way. Now, the last type of filters are sumps. Sumps are chambered aquariums almost that are usually placed underneath of your setup that actually force water through them, usually through drilled holes in your aquarium. They are very powerful, very large at times, depending on the size of your aquarium, but really great overall. Now, other advantages of them is that they are quite hidden. So aside from perhaps the drilled areas of your aquarium, all the equipment can be hidden within the sump underneath. So that means that there's really no cables going into your aquarium or anything like that like you would have with any of these other setups. However, they can be perceived as quite intimidating to use. They are also expensive depending on where you get them and if you are unable to build your own, and they're heavy. It's almost like having two separate aquariums. So you do have to consider as to one, where your aquarium is being placed in your home and how much support you have on the floor and in that space. So please take that into consideration if you do have a large aquarium or you're thinking of getting a large aquarium with a sump as well. Now, those are the 5 different types of filters that you can get, and there's a lot of more details that we could talk about them, but the idea here is just to have a quick introduction into each of them. Now, a lot of people ask which filter is best, and to be honest, the answer is the one that you're using or want to use. They all do exactly the same thing. They filter water. If you have a large budget, a large aquarium, then you might want to invest into a larger filter, whether it's canister or a sump. If you just want to get right into the hobby and have something that'll work right away, a hang-on back or internal filter is an excellent option. And if you're thinking you might want to start breeding your fish or you want to have some fancy shrimp, then a sponge filter really is the way to go. So again, the answer to the question, which filter is best, it's really the one that you want to use. They all work great, and whichever one you choose is going to work well for you. Now, we hope that this introduction to filters has been helpful, and as always, we want to hear from you. Go ahead and leave a comment below and tell us which filters you enjoy using, and especially those of you who are using sumps or maybe some of these bigger filters, let us know what you enjoy about them and how to get started in using them. As always, give us a like and a follow, and we'll see you on the next video.